What scares me is that like people watching. This is where I got into the Guy Ritchie thing. In Guy Ritchie's podcast, he talks about like the essence of narrative, and how like it's sort of leaning in the Joseph Campbell thing, where like, fuck, I wish we could watch it, but anyway, it sort of leads to the Joseph Campbell thing about like the hero's journey that's ever repeating in all narrative. And I know we talked about like not all.
Yeah, there
stories.
are certain. It's an archetype, though. It's a big archetype. It's a broad.
The collection of archetypes is like.
Well, the hero's an archetype.
The hero's an archetype. The wise king, the tyrannical king. Give me some. The devouring mother. Other ones. The dragon that the hero slays and then creates. The dragon that the hero slays, and once he slays it, he gets the gold that the dragon is hoarding, right? So Hobbit. The Hobbit is a weak, sheltered person who willingly makes the journey outside of his order, the Shire, and he goes into chaos with ruffians and has to dip into his dark side during his journey.
Right. He also has that like mentor figure, Gandalf,
the wise king,
convince him to.
Sure.
Yeah. So he's hesitant at first, but yeah, that's like standard storytelling too, where that's like Act 1 is like the hero deciding whether or not to go on the journey. That's exactly. A big part of the arc. Is like
100%. There's what is there? 3 acts, 3 like archetypal acts.
I guess it depends.
Sure. But like,
I know
it's gonna vary a bunch. But like so it's the same thing I do with religion, where I'm like, all right, you have Christianity, you have Buddhism, you have all the religions, and then like, yeah, they have a bunch of differences. But what are the things that are the same? The things that stay the same in all of them. So then you could say like, when you strip away all the cultural, the time, like where you are in time, because what is religion? Religion is a group of people in a specific place during a specific time that are trying to explain the divine. And then you have another people in a different place with a different culture, different language, trying to explain their experience with the divine.
Okay, but my worry is like, when you get to the point where you're comparing a lot of different religions, right, and finding the things that say the same. A lot of the times you end up with like a number 23 situation. You know what I'm saying? Where
you fit it to your argument.
Well, yeah. If you start looking for something that you weren't looking for before that moment.
But what if you are looking for it?
I do think that you are going to start overemphasizing similarities. If you're just looking at things like and looking for similarities, you're going to start finding them, right?
I think you could. So So does it take this? Does it take the way that science goes about it and is like, okay, well, one person came to this conclusion, so now let's have other people look at the same information or similar information, and then they have to agree as well. And then once we do that, then we can say, yes, it's more likely than not.
I guess it's the trouble with that is like finding where the threshold beyond coincidence is.
Okay.
So at what point is it no longer, are these no longer coincidences?
This is the same argument, exactly. So that point needs to be defined. That threshold or whatever, that like, whatever, yeah, like that definition of like, okay, like it's clearly obvious enough that like there's a recurring theme or like a core of something, that there's a core message that gets layered on top of all like different culture, different lenses of going about life, but then fundamental. And yeah, I definitely am seeing what you're saying more now as I'm saying it, but at the same time, it's like I don't think that I think there's been enough people. So for example, like something that changed my life, Aldous Huxley's The Perennial Philosophy. He does that. He looks at a bunch of shit, and then there's another, William James, and The Variety of Religious Experience. Both of them like geniuses. I was raised Catholic. I was reading, for whatever reason, I don't know how this started, the Tao Te Ching. I was reading about Buddhism, like one specific book, like what the Buddha taught is one. Zoroastrianism, I just looked up on Wikipedia, and What are some others? Hinduism. I was reading the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, and so like my assemblage of these different religious perspectives, I was like, I myself said like they're different, but like they're if you read them long enough, you see that they're like talking about very similar things, and not in every aspect.
Some examples though, like what are some of these archetypes that are sort of recurring that go beyond where you think there's something to this? This isn't just a coincidence.
So some examples. I mean, so what I'm about to say is tainted by Alan Watts's perspective. I can agree with that, but like Alan Watts talks about like what Jesus was saying, and like so he makes the claim that Jesus Christ was misinterpreted. Jesus Christ was misinterpreted. I don't want to say it in a big way. Let's just say that Jesus Christ was interpreted somewhat, right? And so there's the Hindu idea that there's Brahman, right? Brahman is the supreme creator. It's everything. It's not. I don't see it the way that I see it. It's not a disembodied thing. It's Brahman is everything, everywhere, every time. It's like everything. It's unfathomable, just like the idea of God through a Christian lens. Brahman is the fundamental. It's like the Force from Star Wars. You know, it pervades everything, and like nothing is separate from.
Star Wars was kind of based on like Buddhist, not necessarily Buddhist, but like
it's more like Taoism. Like the Tao of the ancient Chinese is the Force. I don't want to say is the Force. It's very
inspired though by a lot of
Eastern philosophy.
Eastern philosophy, the Hero with 1,000 Faces, Joseph Campbell. Yeah, specifically George Lucas talked about those things.
All right, yeah, boom.
Yeah.
So the Force is just a good example. It makes it easier for me to explain it because like the Force is Star Wars. So it's like that, and like, but more so than like the Hindus say that like, who are you, Pablo? Pablo is a word. Pablo is a noise that is made with the mouth. Pablo is a series of memories that is an illusion. It's a concept. I'm not Pablo. I'm this pattern of being. You know, like with this hair that's receding now, but when I was 15, like I had a certain way about me. Like all our cells like die and like get reborn. You know, so like, what are you, Pablo? It's like I'm not what I think I am. I am a part of the whole. I am Brahman. I'm a manifestation of Brahman because every differentiation of being is Brahman. So you are of the same spark of divinity as I am.
I've heard it described similarly as like a wave, right?
Yeah.
So
one wave.
Yeah. So a wave, when a wave moves through the water, you see a wave coming, and you just assume that's that water coming from there to here. But that's actually a lot of different water that's getting cycled in and out of the wave. Yeah. So the water's coming into the wave, the water's coming out of the wave. You just see the wave, and you see the wave moving, and you assume that's one thing.
We label.
But that's not one wave. That is all of the water, and that's sort of in other words, and that's sort of a way of looking at, or that's the traditional, I suppose, Buddhist way of looking at reincarnation, right? Because there are going to be enough human beings born that somebody will have your identical characteristics, your identical features, but they will not necessarily be you in terms of consciousness, but you will reoccur. And that is the nature of the wave, that you see that wave moving, you see that's the same wave as me, or that's the same wave that I'm seeing back there. But it's entirely a different wave by the time that it gets just a little bit closer to you.
Okay, that's fair. So I see what you mean. But what I would say is that like that wave is not... so I'm going to say like, why is that wave not separate from the other wave? Because that wave is of the ocean. Is of the nature of the ocean.
No, yeah, and I'm just talking about... I think like what I'm just referring to is the idea of, we got on the idea of, not necessarily reincarnation, but we were talking about something along
the Force. I went off tangent a bit.
But that is the Force, basically. The Force would be the ocean, reincarnation is the mechanism, and the wave is the person being reincarnated, right?
I think reincarnation, Like, when I think about it...
Well, not necessarily reincarnation being a part of the greater thing, but you know what I'm saying.
I think so. So, when I think about it, I don't think when I think about it, I don't even think about reincarnation. I think I could fit it in, you know, but I don't even consider it. Like, it's not necessary in my mind. So, like, this is another thing. I think this is a different point, but it is the same point. So it's like, we decide that this is a mountain. This is the valley. That is and then here's the plain. So it's like the plain, the valley before the mountain. I don't even know the characteristic words that people use to describe the summit of a mountain, but it's like, what's a better one? Okay, here's the let's use the mountain one. So it's like, here's the mountain.
I see what you mean. You're deciding where the mountain begins and where the mountain ends. Or is it all one thing? It's just characterizing one thing so that it can be many things, so that you can be more specific in how you talk about it.
It's functional for society. It's functional for
civilization. Well, all language is built on functionality.
Because what's a word? A word is a symbol. A word is a concept. A word is not a thing. A word is not what you're trying to describe. A word is a symbol for something, a pattern. A word is a symbol for a pattern. Right?
Word is a symbol for
a pattern of nature, a pattern of being.
Well, yeah.
Because Pablo is a symbol. Pablo is a representation of.
Pablo is So Pablo's it's going to mean something
everyone.
Different to everyone.
Sure.
But they might all be referring to the same thing. But it's necessarily not going to be the same thing, because when I say Pablo, I have an idea of Pablo.
Sure. I have an idea of Pablo. That's different from your idea.
Exactly. So we're both talking about Pablo, but really we're not both talking about the same Pablo.
Exactly. So I think that's making my point.
Yeah, I don't think we're necessarily disagreeing. I think this goes back to the same thing as the idea with reincarnation is where do you draw the line between what is and isn't? Because it might have all the same characteristics. It might have all the same features. It might look the same to the naked eye. It goes back to the issue of labeling.
Yeah.
And even beyond labeling is like I guess interpretation, understanding the limitations of like what you can and can't possibly understand, and how you can, but to go back to like archetypes, because that does circle around.
Okay, so I started saying something about like Jesus Christ being misunderstood, right?
Yeah, you were talking about Alan Watts' theory here.
Okay, sure, yes. Okay, so here we go. So that was like, I feel like what we just talked about is like kind of Hindu understanding mixed in with a couple other things. But I think Christianity, or at least the gospel of Jesus Christ, is alluding to the same thing, but people stopped at Jesus. So, for example, like Jesus was like, I and the Father, I and my Father are one, right? He was like saying like, I'm God, is how we take it. So people say, no, Jesus Christ and God, same thing, no worries.
So he referred to himself, well, when he was referring to himself, he usually used the phrase the Son of Man. But I'm not sure, because that's where it gets tricky too, is how that
translations. That's important.
I think, I think more hay is made about translations than actually there is. I mean, if you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, a lot of things translate pretty specifically.
How can we know that?
Well, because
I can't know.
Okay, well, the Dead Sea Scrolls are like a very old recording of parts of the Bible that still survive.
Okay.
So that's many translations back. That's basically as close as you can get.
It's OG, right?
I don't think it's OG, but it's probably.
Dead Sea Scrolls are not OG?
I don't think so. I think
so
at that
not
point
Aramaic.
Still.
What language?
Maybe they were Aramaic,
Greek?
but that doesn't necessarily mean. I mean, I'm just saying the book of Paul, or the parts of it that might be available in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I forget what books are actually available.
I thought the Dead Sea Scrolls were a separate thing.
No, they're not.
What? It's the same book?
It's pieces of the Bible and other texts that weren't necessarily
left out?
a part of the modern Bible, but it's those texts, but it's a very old copy, so you can compare for the sake of translation, right?
Okay.
You can say this is a very old copy that we have that was over here in this specific place at this specific time, and here's the modern copy. And you hold those right up next to each other, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, very accurate to modern translation.
But you have to trust that translation too, though. And I'm not.
I think you're getting splitting hairs there because I
Maybe.
think that I think that we have those languages. I mean, those aren't dead languages.
But from an A to a the is so important, right? Like just the shift. So like I am. Fuck. What was the example?
I am a son of man versus the son of man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that not like a huge differentiation?
Sure.
Like one. Like you split that, and then you have two different completely understandings.
Well, the fact that that's so important, though, you would have to be assuming almost that somebody wouldn't translate that properly, because that sounds like something that, I mean, especially the direct quotations from Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. If you're the person, now you can argue whether or not there was the reincarnation, but I mean, as a historical figure, I think that there's enough evidence that he was there, he was in that place.
I don't doubt that even. I think, you know what I think Jesus was? Jesus was somebody that came across some shit, and he realized, so this is coming from the perspective of me kind of believing that the Hinduist idea is correct. And so what I'm doing is putting that onto what Jesus said, and I'm saying that it fits. So it might be wrong, but why did the Jews kill Jesus? Because he said he was God.
Yeah, he also threatened the established order of how they did things. Right?
I would say good.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah. So before Christianity, Judaism is very tribal religion. They have their specific god that they think. It's sort of like rallying behind the team like mascot. It's like, this is our God. This is how we see God. This is our God. Our God's stronger than all these other gods.
This is our idea of God.
But this was like monotheistic in the sense that they only worshipped one God, right? But it's not monotheistic in the sense that they only believed in one God, because in the Old Testament, God competed directly with Baal and all these other gods, and he whooped him. It's like, our God, look at him, he's the strongest God.
God, that just shows you how much.
But it was very tribal, right? Exactly. So they had a certain specific way that Jews dressed, a certain way that they were allowed to eat, and a certain set of ideas and things that would distinguish them from the population at large. It's tribal. It's tribal. It's the idea that we belong to this group. We have these rituals. We have this God.
We have that today.
Ours is the best.
We have that today.
Yeah, of course, with all groups. But there's tribalism. But
yeah.
Okay, so then Jesus comes, and his thing is, he's with the lady at the well, and he's like, the whole story of the lady at the well. I forget what she was called. Yeah, he meets a lady at the well, and she's from this different tribe. Was it the Babylonians, or I forget it? I think it's a Samaritan. I think she was a Samaritan.
Okay.
Anyways, the idea was he was bringing these tribes together. He's like, hey, you know what? You can follow our God too, and that's all you need. He is a fountain that will fill you up, and our God can be everyone's God. It's a more inclusive religion. It's less tribalistic, and that was the It's
not only more inclusive. It's ever inclusive. It's every man, and obviously, how far did Jesus stray? What was his picture?
How far did he stray in what sense?
And like, how far did he want to spread this religion, or what? And not how far. No. Sorry, not how far did he want to spread this religion, but how far was he talking? Was he talking? He was not talking about his tribe. He was talking about man. He was talking about people. I think. I don't know. What do you think? Like,
I think that so. I have a sort of a traditional understanding of Christianity.
Okay, I want to hear that. Yours is gonna be
so,
better. Okay, so I've been doing this
from the very beginning of the Old Testament, all throughout the Old Testament into the New Testament. The story of the Hebrew faith and the Christian faith, it really comes down to man is flawed. Man is always on the brink of breaking his trust with God eternally.
Yep.
Man is always on the brink of falling into sin and temptation. Mm-hmm. And only by sort of the skin of our teeth and the few good deeds that we're able to do are we do we transcend animalism? Do we distinguish ourselves? Do we make ourselves holy and natural in the eyes of, and not even transcending animalism, because there's an argument to be made that naturalism and animalism is the way that man was meant to be, but that part of our being fallen and earthly and away from God is our absence of our understanding of good and evil through the tree of life, that sort of thing. But what I'm saying is basically, so man is fallen, right? Man is always on the brink of self-destruction.
Yeah.
Man is...
I agree with all this so far.
All of this. Okay, so Jesus comes along.
Yeah.
And that sort of... Man has this relationship with God where man, it's always one good man, the hero. And this is a traditional hero figure. You look at the story, a prophet, but this goes back to the Joseph Campbell idea, the hero with 1,000 faces.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so you talk about the hero's journey, right?
Yeah.
And the whole story of Abraham. The whole story of Abraham,
100%.
all along the way, it's like, I don't want to do it. I'm reluctant. I'm the reluctant hero.
Yep.
And then you have that whole first act build where it's like, no, man, you got to do this. You got to do this. And he keeps giving more and more of himself. And, you know, it fits that mold in certain ways.
It does, 100%.
I don't know if he's necessarily redeemed at the end because
he is. He becomes the father of nations.
True, but he never is able to enter the land of milk and honey, Israel.
But like, I mean,
I don't know. I
that?
think that there is a departure there from the traditional hero's arc, where the hero's arc traditionally is sort of has a wish fulfillment element.
In what sense? What do you mean?
Well, the hero is, he goes through this adventure and he's redeemed at the end.
But it's not for him, though.
It's almost like
it's never for him. It's never for him. So it's the same thing with Abraham. It wasn't for him. It was for his descendants, and that's what it was known all along. So it's the same thing. Like earlier when I said it's like the hero leaves the village, he goes on a journey, he encounters the dark side, so it makes himself whole.
Okay, so
and hold on, and then he goes to face the dragon willingly, which is chaos, unknown. Like here's Abraham in his order. He leaves there and faces famine,
40 years in the
war.
desert.
That's Moses.
Well, no, you're right. I'm thinking of Moses, actually.
Moses is the next one. Moses is the same thing. So Moses is the next generation of the same exact story, where Abraham leaves, he goes into Egypt, and his wife almost gets fucking attacked and killed and like raped, and there's famine and war here, and then he like moves on. So back to the dragon one. So like here's Hobbit. He leaves willingly, like reluctantly, but willingly, and encounters a bunch of shit, and then he gets to face the dragon, and like he backs away, and then he so there's always that like the Mortal Kombat music, dun dun dun, and then the good guy starts winning, right? So anyway, so here's Hobbit. He faces the dragon. He kills the dragon. What does the dragon have? The dragon has the gold. The dragon has the gold. And then what does the hero do? The hero doesn't just sit there and bathe in the gold. The hero brings the gold back to the people and spreads it out.
Okay, so here we get sort of back to Jesus, right?
Let's do it.
I think Jesus is an attempt to complete the dialogue, to complete the dialectic, to bring the entire story to a close, because you're on this repetition, right, where from Adam to Moses to Cain and Saul and all of these characters. You're telling the story of how man has fallen and how he's repeating his journey and how he's trying to overcome. And like you're getting to the point with Jesus where
I agree with all of this.
You're getting to the point with Jesus where man is so fallen that there are no more redemptive men to the point where we're stuck in this deadlock, right? So the idea of Jesus is supposed to be, he is God, he is perfect, he comes down to earth to redeem man. So it's like, okay, man is so fallen, but there has to be somebody there who's going to carry us across the finish line. And God is so forgiving and loving that he's like, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to come down. I'm going to be you. I'm going to become the hero. Even though I'm the author to the story, I'm going to come in. I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to, like, you can't be good enough to redeem yourself. So I'm going to take you by the hand.
What a terrible parent God was.
I'm going to take you by the hand, and I'm going to take you all the way through the finish line. And he's standing up at the end where he has that moment of self-doubt, right? Because it's all about redeeming mankind. So he's on the cross, he's looking up, and he says, "Father, why have you forsaken me?"
Yeah.
But Jesus is God.
Okay,
so how can he say, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" Because that's that moment of self-doubt
Okay.
That's that moment of self-doubt at the final sacrifice.
Okay.
Where he's saying, has it all been for nothing? I'm trying to carry this damaged humanity across the finish line. I'm giving my all.
Yeah.
And they're mocking me. They're putting this wine in my face that's turned into vinegar. And they're like basically all saying, fuck you.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm at the finish line. I'm trying to fucking carry you guys across. This is like, you guys aren't going to budge. You're not. And then
he's like the madman.
And then he says, why have you forsaken me? And you know what happens after that?
No.
The one guy next to him scorns him and he's laughing at him. He's making fun of him.
Yeah.
And then he turns and the other guy says, you know what? I believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
And he is able to save one final soul.
Okay.
One final soul. He is able to carry him across into the kingdom of heaven at the last moment. And not only does that give that man redemption, but that redeems the entire arc of mankind. Because that is, everyone is given up on Christ. All of his apostles have forsaken him.
Okay.
Even his closest followers. Who was it who betrays him 3 times?
Peter.
Everyone has forsaken him,
yeah.
But he is able in that final moment when he is full of doubt and he thinks, why have you forsaken me? Why have I done this? I have this moment of self-doubt. I am God, but why has God forsaken me? Why am I, as man, talking to God, myself, why am I forsaken? Why am I so fallen that I can never redeem myself? And then there's that final moment, and he looks over, and man is ready. And he finally sees it.
Okay.
And he's a sinner. He's up there being crucified with him because he's a terrible person.
So just like Jesus, this guy joins God.
In the final moment. And the fact that Jesus is able to go across that finish line with him, it's
but it's that guy that takes himself across the finish line, not Jesus.
No, it is. He has to see it. He would have died on that cross if Jesus were not there being fallen, being a sinner, being unredeemed.
That man is Jesus. That's what I think. That man
sure,
is Jesus.
you could make the argument, but okay, let's appreciate for a second how perfect of an ending to the story that is.
But why have it be an end? It's not an ending.
Not necessarily. No, after that there's the establishment of the church.
Forget
right?
that. Forget the establishment of the church. It's like.
Well, you're going beyond Christianity now, where I do think Christianity is its own thing in as much as, okay, this is where we get to the point where.
I think we should be doing what Jesus said. Like everybody's worried about saying this. Everybody's saying, you don't believe in Jesus, you're not saved. Okay, I see. No, so what I'm saying is like, hold on,
I don't know. I think that's a projection largely.
No,
I think that most Christians
I do this all the time, bro.
They think that you're not saved if you don't follow Jesus, but they want you to be saved.
I'm not speaking from imagining what people say. I talk to people all the time. On Sunday, I worked a 12-hour shift with this one lady who's this Jamaican person who. Jamaicans are Christian as fuck. I had no idea that the country of Jamaica is Christian and Catholic as fuck. She's Catholic, she's Christian, and we talked. I had a 12-hour shift with her. We talked for about 6 hours about religion, and I got it from the horse's mouth. Allie's mom, hardcore non-denominational Christian. I spent at least 60 hours.
I
with
do
her
think non-denominational Christians are different than traditional.
Let's talk Catholics. I talk to my mom. How often? All the time, bro. So I'll tell you what I'm telling you is this. What you just said, I agree with every point you just made. I agree with the Old Testament's building up, and Jesus completing that arc, and I agree with everything you said, but that's not what we see today. What we see is a perversion. What we see is what I'm looking at around us is a perversion of the ideas of what you just said.
Yeah, true. Okay. So
is that not fair?
That's any organized religion at large, and you can look at Buddhism.
That's why religion is bullshit. I agree. Buddhists said, "Don't make this a religion. This is a dialogue. This is a method of liberation, not a religion." He specifically said religion, no religion.
I do think there is credence though to the Catholic Church, in that it is a Christ handed over the church to Paul when he was resurrected, and you can put so much faith in this, right? Or you cannot. But
I'm not putting faith in it. I'm about Jesus. I'm not about Christianity. I'm about Jesus Christ. I'm talking about I want to act like Jesus.
Part of the story is him establishing a church. I mean,
hold on. So imagine there's a person who is Jesus Christ, and he lives this life, and then somebody after him tells a story, and they realize this man's story is powerful. Like maybe they go on with good intentions for 100 years, but after that they're like, fuck, this is good shit, man. Then everybody's on board, and then you have like power coming into the hands of the people that, I'm not saying this is definite, but I'm saying that like it's so very easily possible that like the story of Jesus, as amazing as it was perverted for not just control, but like the way that it spread, dude. So let's talk about like how Catholicism changed the world in an imperialistic sense, as an empire, not a religion. Dude, they were dominating and murdering. It goes against the very teachings of Jesus.
It does. But I can give you a breakdown of that if you want. I mean,
sure.
So there is, okay, you have to look at it in two distinct phases, as pre-Roman Empire Christianity and post-Roman Empire Christianity. Whereas
no, there is no Christianity without.
Just hear out my point here.
There is no there's no pre-Roman Christianity. That doesn't
Hear out
exist.
my point here.
All right.
Hear out my point. Okay.
All right.
So Christians were persecuted in the Roman Empire up until a certain point.
Okay.
Up until Constantine, who adopted Christianity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Led to the fall of Rome.
Okay. Led to the.
Yeah, no, it was collapsing for long before Constantine finally broke the straw that broke.
And people.
I don't know much about Roman history. Let's go.
What I would say
going.
about
go with your point.
but I'm going to say the fall of Rome is a Rorschach test for your own beliefs.
Sure, that's fine.
So whatever you see in the fall of Rome is going to just say more about you than the actual fall of Rome. Because there's many different ways to look at it.
Well,
many different ways.
So many ways to look at it because so many different reasons.
There's a boilerplate. There's a boilerplate Republican, like.
I'm not a Republican at all.
I'm not saying you are, but there is a boilerplate Republican like idea of, well, the Roman Empire fell for these reasons. It was this liberalist decadence, and then there's so many interpretations of why the Roman Empire fell.
I think not just is there so many interpretations. There's so many variables that ultimately caused the death. It wasn't like this one thing.
Exactly.
So like,
that's everything.
Agreed.
That's everything.
I agree with that.
People want to tell you why Rome fell.
I don't even care about that.
So before that, we were talking about Constantine.
Yes. So
these are the two different ways that you have to look at Christianity as. I feel. Okay, you have to look at it as pre-Roman Empire Christianity and post, because they're two distinct phases. Before it becomes so popular that it overcomes. There were very different values, and the founder of the monastic orders, basically, the monastic tradition, Alexander. Yeah, I believe it was.
What's this guy's ballpark? Like
the Desert Fathers, right? So this takes place, I think it was a few hundred BC. So this is not far after
100 BC. Before Christ?
I'm sorry.
AD. Okay.
80.
I was like,
80.
what the fuck? I told you.
Okay, so this is a couple hundred years after, and this guy's interesting because he's actually, Christianity is becoming a thing, Constantine comes into place, and Christians are no longer becoming persecuted. Mm-hmm. And this guy forms a monastic tradition because he's like, oh man, remember when we were persecuted? Wasn't that great? Mm-hmm. This guy loved being persecuted. So he was just like, I'm going to live out in the desert, I'm going to have this terrible life, but that's going to make me closer to God, and that's going to make me...
Do you see how that's your viewpoint, though? Like, going into the desert and living a terrible life, but being closer with God? Like, that's...
No, it was purposeful suffering. That's a part of the monastic tradition.
Okay, that's fine. That's interesting to me because that's the same thing as Buddhism.
This guy was
that's the same thing as Buddhism.
haunted by demons. haunted by demons throughout his whole life because he was getting so close. He was. This is like early Christian mysticism, right? This is
okay. I'm more about that than today. I'm with that.
No, yeah, that was. I mean, once you become, and it's like anything. It's like the founding of America. You can talk about the founding of America and all these grand principles, but once you become an empire, you're an empire, baby.
I agree. So what I'm saying to you is that like the thing of them becoming an empire and the change in principle, they're not separate. It's like the same. You can't get to this point. It's the same thing. So let me tell you. I agree with everything you said about the Old Testament. But so like, this is an interpretation I heard. I'm gonna like footnote it with like Jordan Peterson laid this out. But it's the same thing you said, which is interesting. So he's like, the Old Testament is this. It's like a bunch of tribes, and their concern is how do we build up the perfect state to find divinity with God. Like the state has to be perfect. We need the perfect king and the perfect whatever, right? So you have like them do it and like come close with God, and then corruption happens and all this bad stuff, and then a prophet comes and said, you guys are deviating from the natural cycle, the natural pattern with walking with God. Like the corruption, look at it, look what's happening, and look at the deviation from God. And then they don't heed the warning, whatever, and boom, collapse. And then another, like, it happens again, like they build up with like goodness at first. And it's the same idea with like Hindu mythology.
So we're talking about bureaucracy and how organized structures always result in sort of like corruption. Some kind of.
It's like sure. So
everything gets corrupted at a certain point.
So I'm gonna just say this. It gets corrupted, and it doesn't have to be like corrupted. Doesn't look bad. But it's like a human body. It's like human body like divides, like differentiates, and then it just like collapses.
Right. It's sort of like how a single-celled organism can live like billions of years, or hundreds of thousands, hundreds of years, or whatever. Okay. But like the more complex an organism is,
the less.
So it eventually the natural order within it will be corrupted. The more complicated that it is.
Yeah, I think it's that idea.
I think so. Yeah. And that's sure. And you're gonna find that, but you have to try to pluck the seed.
Oh yeah, so Christianity. You know? And what do you mean pluck the seed?
I agree. You have to find what's inside there, and you have to be like, this is what this means to me.
I agree with that, but so people today. Okay, I'll tell you. Like I was talking with that Jamaican lady, and like I could tell you that like this lady wasn't thinking about what she was saying to me. She was the same way that I hit an arm. So no, I do jiu-jitsu the same way that I philosophize. And it's like, I don't like say I'm gonna do this move. I just like take what you give me. I take what you give me. I don't go into it with any.
You're correcting a discomfort. Okay, so? With jiu-jitsu, somebody's coming at you, they're gonna inflict a discomfort, you're correcting for it.
Sure. I agree.
And she's doing the same thing where she's battling with her own mind to correct a discomfort. I think she is. I think you guys think.
So how is she doing it?
She is in her own mind. She knows that this idea of damnation, this idea of these certain people going to hell, it's terrible. She wouldn't want that for anyone. She wouldn't want that for these people that she
thinks
sees.
That. She believes that. She doesn't know it.
She wouldn't want them to go to hell. She wouldn't want this idea of hell that she has. She wouldn't want it for them.
Okay.
But she has to.
So what does she do in response to that?
She has to justify why they are evil enough, or they are wrong enough, or they are wrong in the eyes of God enough to where they are deserving of that. It has nothing to do with her. So she's not making a judgment call of like, these people should be in hell. But no, she's not saying that. She's just saying, nope, that's the way it is. That is, and it's almost like you're correcting for that discomfort, right? You're preventing that cognitive dissonance.
I gotta understand what you're saying, because I don't think that she's doing, like what I was gonna say she's doing is not. So what are you saying she's doing again?
So you're talking about this Jamaican lady at work and how you're talking about people don't believe this specific thing, they're going to hell, or they're not right with Jesus. They don't believe in this. They're not right. This
is true, but what I was gonna say about her is that like everybody does this to an extent, and I do this too. But this is what she does. She believes what she believes because of what people told her to believe, but what she was indoctrinated to believe, and like she's regurgitating.
Okay, well, why do you hit a triangle?
Because I've been taught. I've been taught to do that. So what? So agreed. But it's not like. So this is my argument with Nick. It's not like I'm just going to do a triangle. That's not how it works.
No, but something's going to come up. Something's going to come up.
Uh-huh.
They're going to inflict this discomfort. You're going to see the discomfort. You're going to see, this is what they're doing. I know what they're doing. Their hand's reaching this way. I have to do this.
Okay, and?
You're not thinking.
I'm not thinking. I agree that I'm not thinking in jiu-jitsu. I think to think in jiu-jitsu is wrong.
She's doing the same thing. She's hitting the triangle.
Sure, but okay, so this is true. So in jiu-jitsu, if I have a habit, I have a tendency to do a move and it's shitty. I've done it this shitty way so many times. I'll never get a triangle in a roll. Because like I've ingrained this here's how to do a triangle, boys. You're going to put your hip right here and you do this, and there's this
so
back,
you're
there's
saying
this
it's
back.
been ingrained in her incorrectly.
I mean, I would say that...
But by what perspective?
Sure, but from my perspective.
From your perspective.
From my perspective.
Sure.
But like, she's okay, how do I gotta find the words for it. Let's see. And another thing I kept telling her throughout the entire conversation is like, we're trying to use words to describe something that words can never... You're trying to use words to describe God. You will always fail. You will always, if you talk long enough, you will always trip yourself up.
Think about that for a second. I'm going to use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I hate warm beer. That's why I like liquor. Because warm liquor's fine.
Warm liquor is fine.
Warm beer's not okay.
You know what was really fucking... It's funny how, like, there's a difference between liqueur and liquor, but it's like... Fireball. It's literally a liqueur. I mean,
what?
It's
Really?
35...
It's liqueur? I thought that was a fucking... Damn, I guess maybe... It's like a cinnamon liqueur?
Exactly.
Jesus. People go hard on Fireball.
Yeah.
You used to go hard on Fireball.
I love Fireball, dude. I could still go hard on Fireball. It wouldn't be good, though.
It's never good.
It's never good.
Fuck, dude, that's funny.
Oh, man. I remember one day I was bringing home some Fireball on my bike, and the fucking handle snapped right when I was in the, like, driveway. And it smelled so cinnamony, because, like, the bag ripped open, the handle fell out, snapped.
I thought you meant the bike handles. I was like, what?
No,
the handle fucking, okay, that's
dude,
funny.
the whole, for like a week, that was like straight cinnamon every time we went out that driveway. That Fireball's not fucking whiskey. It's not even, it's just like a liqueur.
Yeah, I went to go say that and I was like, oh shit, it's not. I always have loved the flower.
That's a really fucking good one, actually. White cheddar.
Come on, go ahead.
I indulge, like, I can't, like, if it's like 7 in the afternoon and I'm like getting off work and I'm hitting the, like, store on the way home, I would never just like go and indulge and buy all the like shitty fast foodie stuff that I really like.
Okay.
But if it's like 2 in the morning and I'm going to the super Walmart that's 24/7.
Yeah, what is it about that?
Yo, those cravings just come out. That's your animal brain. It's just like, I want that fucking terrible shit that's gonna kill me.
That's you just explained Taco Bell's success.
They leaned into it heavy with that force meal shit.
Dude, and you're right, they sold it. Actually. You're right. Wow. You see, subconsciously I made the connection that they implanted in my brain.
Right. They want to be that like, oh, it's bad food, but it's like, we're being ironic by eating it even though it's bad food because it's that time, because we're partying, because it's late, because we're being hedonistic, because it's Taco Bell, because it all hits that same little like electrode in your brain that's that little dopamine that's just like, I'm being bad,
They capitalized on it, they marketed it,
They hired psychologists to fucking probe your fucking brain. Now we can get into almost that Google shit, right?
True. And so like it's not just it's the whole thing. It's the whole industry. That's what I think. And that's why I'm like somewhat like I'm on a regular basis, I'm like, yeah, look at what they're doing. Like, fuck that. Like if you have to get there, we've deviated from the path. If we have to get there to where we're doing that for that to be defined as success, we've deviated from the path and we should consider looking at what we're doing and why.
Okay, but maybe that's you thinking as an individual, right? But
Surely, yeah.
as a collective,
That's a
collective.
No, see, and you know what? It is. It's me as a micro and the macro. So like, at first I was gonna go with you and be like, maybe you're right, but no. It's what's happening to us as a whole that I think is a problem as well. It's me looking at it from as an individual looking at the whole. I'm like,
Okay, well, but then maybe it's your
lens.
it's your goal orientation. It's like, what do you set as true north on your moral compass? It's like, are you out to make everybody happy or fulfilled, or are you out to like the steady march of progress of technology, making life better for everyone, or what is it?
It's not. So I think it's very similar to the fucking people who come, and that sounds like fucked up. But I was gonna say it's like, what does the prophet do? The prophet comes into society and says, "Yo, you guys are like deviating from like a thing that's like undeviatable. Like there's like you're gonna suffer
There's consequences.
Yeah. It's like
The madman.
Like, when you deviate like long enough from like the principle, you will pay. You're gonna pay.
It's like when the madman says the deed has already been done, but they do not even. This moment has not even come yet. They have already.
Mm-hmm.
What is it he says?
I don't remember, but it's that.
It's that. It's the. This has not even yet happened, and yet they have already done it. They've already killed God. They have already.
I think that, like, I feel like that's happened. Like, honestly, what Nietzsche said is like in the midst of happening, and it hasn't even completed itself yet. But like the last 120, 40, 50, 60 years it's been since Nietzsche died, like it's been happening still. That's
so what
why,
do you
that's
think
why
of the
Nietzsche's so
fact
powerful. That's why Nietzsche's so powerful.
People attribute his going insane to like syphilis. But that's you can't say that for sure. That's like post-mortem. It's like
okay.
So is that true? Is that I don't even pay it much mind. Like they just see these psychotic incidents in people with syphilis, and they conclude, well, he's having these psychotic incidences that these people have. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, yeah, you can have psychotic incidences, but that to say that caused the syphilis, was caused by syphilis. It's like.
So what are you getting at? That he might have like come to something that like destroyed him?
Maybe.
Come to a realization that like made him go crazy.
Even if it wasn't the realization in itself, I do think that it's something like the Promethean complex, where like, you know, it's self-destructive to like reach for a certain type of intelligence or information that you're gonna eventually come to a point where, you know, a point where it no longer does you good. It's not utilitarian. To know more. In fact, knowing less might even be better. And you get to that point.
I agree with that. So like, I'm all about like all of this being utilitarian. If that's functionality.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. That's just one perspective. Is like that utilitarian is even good.
Okay, so here we go. Here, how about this? Fucking Jordan Peterson talking about this all the time, and it's like, I like this. It's like if I can like get my like whatever I'm presenting to make sense through this lens, or at this level, and then this level, and then this level, and then this, and so if you start like aligning a bunch of different ways that like do you get what I'm getting at?
Well, it's all analysis too, though. To say that something's happening at a certain level that something else is, and then. But
what he meant by that was like, so for example, like he talks about in his Maps of Meaning lecture, he talks about like the mythology pointing to like an archetypal thing, right? It's you gotta watch the whole thing to like understand what I'm saying, but like I can't like say so I can try. I have to be. We've been doing this for hours, so like my brain is tired, but like I can explain this. I think at the beginning with full brain capacity, but here we go. So like the idea is this: it's like there's a mythology that explains something, and like you have to look through a certain lens to see it explaining it the way that Jordan Peterson's talking about. But like when you look at it through that lens, then you take it to the abstract mythological structure. Then you go to the brain, and so like what neuroscience is saying about the brain and how it works, and how that fits into the story. And again, so this can be confirmation bias, where like you're like getting things to align on the neurophysiological level, the mythological level, the psychological level, the sociological level, and it's all correlating and stacking on top of each other and being relevant. So you can confirmation your bias your way there, but I think the more that you get to align, it's either the biggest confirmation bias ever, or your everything that you stack up on top of it is eliminating the confirmation bias.
I would say that the problem lies in the fact that overgeneralization. It's like the same thing that makes conventional like horoscopes seem like bullshit, because they just say things, right, that you can apply to yourself no matter who you are. But it feels specific because it speaks to you in a certain way. So they're using language in a way that's almost weaponized to make you feel like it's specific, even though it's very general.
So I have to reiterate what you just said and make that point. So that point was that the layering of the different perspectives, or like the layering, so like we're talking about chaos versus order, right? That's what Jordan Peterson is using in his maps of meaning like course, where he like the course's progression starts with like, why do people believe what they believe, and then it starts talking about belief structures, which is so correlated to chaos versus order. But like anyway, so it's like, let's go with chaos versus order. It's like here it is, here is its presence in the mythological sense, and then here's its presence in the neuroscience research.
Here's the presence of chaos in the mythological sense. Here's the presence of chaos in
the flux between chaos and order at the mythological sense, which is the hero's journey. You know, it's like what does the hero do? The hero starts in order, right? Then the hero needs to reluctantly, but willingly go out of the order into the chaos. That's leaving the Shire and going into the wilderness, the woods, into the woods. It's here's order, there's chaos. You gotta say, I'm gonna go into the chaos. And you go into the chaos. And then what you do in the chaos is you make it your order. Okay, so you make the act of leaving the order and going into the chaos and not dying is the act of going from order to chaos and making chaos out of the order. Or making order out of the chaos. Okay, so it's like a video game. It's like a video
just like surviving is like...
yes, but so there's how many ways are there to play chess? How many ways are there to win at chess?
Oh,
it's like there's 1,000 ways to play chess, but there's like 500 ways to be a grandmaster. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
You're telling me now that's not true.
I don't know if you could quantify how many ways you can
I'm not trying to quantify. My point is that it's like, you and me, we play a game of chess. The moves we make suck. You know, there's a way to be, there's a way to play chess where you don't see the whole game. You're making pointless moves. You know what I'm saying? So like, and then there's Gary Fisher. Bobby Fischer.
Bobby Fischer, yeah.
Then there's Bobby Fischer, who like is a genius, and like he's like, that's a complete waste of time to make all those 15 moves. I can do what you just did in 5 moves. So like there's 1,000 ways. There's a million ways to play chess. There's only a couple ways to do it right.
I don't know if even that's true. I think
it might not be true.
No, because even like there's so many different ways. Like the really interesting thing about studying different chess like masters and like these Russian grandmasters was that like they would have this strategy that was complete sacrifice, where like you would have like they would be set up in a certain way that you could manipulate, but you would have like 5 pieces left on the table, and then you would just take the whole game from them. Like there are ways to win at chess that are just like complete out of left field insanity.
Okay.
That you would never think.
I agree with you. And so what I'm telling you is that like 95% of the people aren't playing that way. So there's a better way to play chess, and you just that's one of them. That's one of them. You're saying like nobody plays like this, and I'm like, you're right.
But there are a ton of. I'm just saying that there are infinite ways. There are ways that haven't even been thought of yet that you could play chess. That you could
That's fair.
fool someone into falling into your hand.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think the possibilities are fucking endless. But like, only point I was trying to make is like, I don't know. There's better ways to look at things than not. And so like, I don't even think the order versus chaos. I find utilitarian. I don't even know what the fuck that means. But like, I view
Utilitarian is like
something you can apply.
something that's applicable, that's most useful. It's establishing the set of ideas and morals that is most useful.
All right.
and
So
accurate
the
in
chaos.
life.
The chaos order thing is the perfect example of that, because if you look at it from that perspective, you become the explorer. You become I want to say the Ubermensch. Like, you become the one that you become a Renaissance man, because so here's my order. It's like most people want to stay right here in what they know. Order means I know this area. When I do this, I know this happens. Chaos is the unknown. It's outside. It's like a video game. Have you ever played StarCraft? You remember?
I feel like I played that once.
Age of Empires?
I-
Age of
Stargate.
Empires?
You mean Stargate?
StarCraft. I know this well because of Nick. But yeah, StarCraft.
StarCraft 64? Was that the N64 one?
No. It's a computer game.
Did they do one N64 one?
Maybe.
I feel like there was.
You're right. Maybe. It's a PC game. But anyway, do you play Age of Empires?
A little bit. I played 4 for a while.
Alright, so it's this. It's you start as, let's say, the Aztecs, you know, in this corner of the map. And you see a big black map, but you see one little clear area where your little hut is. You know what I'm saying? And then you have a scout that goes out, and then he illuminates the map by going into the unknown and mapping it out. You feel me? Okay, so like we start out with a big black map with only a little corner of it known. It's where my hut is. It's where my center is. So once my army starts moving outward, the map starts illuminating.
Right.
So like my world gets bigger. So it's like, what does the hero do? The hero does this. He's in his order. And that's where I know what's gonna happen. I know this area. The hero leaves that place willingly and goes into the unknown. And what's in the unknown? Monsters. Hell. Dragons. The devil. It's like what I don't know is what kills me. And then what the hero does is he leaves that order, he goes into what can kill him. And then he kills it, he slices it, and then makes the world out of it. And what that means is like he goes into the unknown and he labels. He maps it out and it becomes known. And then the new world.
He creates meaning out of
Not just meaning, but he creates the world. Because like if you think about it from that Age of Empire map example, it's like there's this unknown.
I guess, but you're discovering, I mean, you're not really making the world in Age of Empires.
No, I feel you, but like, so the mythological sense is the hero leaves, he kills the dragon, and then he builds the world off of the dragon. Like that's a recurring theme all over the place. So that's a metaphor for like discovering.
He discovers and
ordering.
He reaches a goal and he expands upon a goal, and then through reaching the goal, he has these discoveries that expand to make life better.
That and like just the fact of him going out creates. It doesn't create the land. I'm not saying it physically creates the land. I'm saying metaphorically it creates the land because he leaves. So like he leaves what is known and he goes into the unknown, and so now everybody is now comfortable to expand and say like, okay, this is now known, so we can go there and we can make villages, and like, so the world gets bigger based on the hero's actions. Awareness is increased because of the hero that leaves the known. It's the movie of Moana, bro. Moana, have you seen it?
Yeah. Well, no. Actually,
Dude, great movie. My daughter.
Kate said that too. Kate said that too.
My daughter. See, what's crazy is I started watching Jordan Peterson at the moment that I fucking, with Gracie started watching this movie, and I was like, holy shit! Like this is one of the. It's like this is the epitome of the story. It's about a girl, and she lives on an island with her village. It's like she lives on an island. Everything is good. They the coconut trumps and leaves. The island gives us what we need, and no one leaves. So like it's their order. The island provides. You know, like the coconuts. Like we live off the coconut. It's our fucking spirit tree. You know, like it gives us food. It gives us water. It gives us this. It gives us that. We're good. We're taken care of. It's the order. The island. We know it provides. Then it doesn't. So Moana's like, she's called to the ocean. The ocean is the metaphor for chaos. I've used the analogy of like life is like you being on an ocean, and like Allie, she like the social game you play is like a yacht. Money acts as like a metaphorical yacht on the chaos of the ocean that is life. My mom's poor. She has a beat up, crinkly ass little kayak that she's riding along in this world. She's like, whoa, look at all this. And like Allie's family, like, all power to them. Like they played the game and they created a very nice, comfortable vessel, you know? And it's like Allie could just, me and her, we like, let's like link up our canoes and like go see the world together kind of deal. And like, we were like, she was like, I was like, nope. Like she went back to the safety of the yacht. And like, you see, like, this is thinking from a certain perspective, and it's, to me, ultimately, like, it doesn't matter, but like, to me, it's also, for me, on like the microscopic Pablo, the Pablo within the Pablo is like, super important part of my journey, because like, now, I don't know, I gotta make,
you're out in the free fall with the kayak. And
exactly.
You're fucking going down the fucking.
You're enmeshed in chaos, and like the tendency for humans is to make order out of the chaos. But don't forget, the order is fake. It's an illusion, because what always happens, and so this is an important realization, is that like no matter what, whatever attempts you make at putting order into the chaos always finds a way in. Whatever the paradise of Adam and Eve, the snake finds its way into the garden. You know, like chaos is life is suffering. Chaos is reality. Any order we try to build up around it is illusionary. It's an illusion. Illusory. It's an attempt to mask the reality of chaos. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to make the order out of the chaos. I think it's a necessary thing. But to believe that that's gonna stay that way is the delusion. The nature of being is.
Well, who says it's gonna stay that way though?
Everybody tries to make it. I'll tell you what. People's actions dictate that. People do everything in their power. They'll delude themselves from reality to try to stay inside that order that they've created for themselves around it. You know, and like the sooner you realize that chaos is surrounded your village of order, so to speak, it's like you better realize it sooner than later. That way you can start to adapt. If you try to deny, that's why denial is so dangerous. If you try to deny the reality that's taking over your illusionary world, you're verging on the point of crazy based in our society. Like if you fail to realize that your life is falling apart around you, you just have to adapt. You have to accept that my order has been compromised. I'm now in chaos. This is a stress state. And that's what happened to me. Like when me and Alice split up, I was in chaos. The order that I built around is like, I have a life with my fiance and my daughter, and we live in an apartment that my aunt gives us really cheap rent on, and blah, blah, blah. Like, this is my order, you know? It's like, it's my safety net. It's my canoe. And it left me. That illusion came crashing down on me. It's not that it was like super fake. It's just like, the idea of what would have happened by going that route didn't happen. So that illusion collapsed on me. So I'm now left in the midst of chaos. The ocean of that is life, the chaos of life. And I need to make, if I don't make order, illusionary or not, I'm gonna go crazy. You know, I'm gonna be like, I think that's what happens to homeless people is they get eaten by the dragon. They get encompassed by chaos. And
you need a little bit of chaos because it's almost just like that fantasy element that like keeps you from like fucking getting caught up into the mundane bullshit that's just like
sure.
Life isn't going to be transcendental and exciting every fucking day.
Yeah.
So you sort of need like this little bit of chaos, this little bit of excitement to keep you sort of like, oh, like there's something out there, there's something unique, there's something. But like the more you have of that, the more you're sort of, it's escapism, it's not reality. And
Ooh.
if you get so attached
by going into the chaos?
Exactly.
But I mean, I agree that like going to too much of anything will lead you. So me and Caleb always talk about like this. It's like, oh, society's like all about wearing masks and blah blah blah. And Caleb's always like, you just gotta take off all of your masks and find out what you really are. And I'm like, yeah, but like the mask of not wearing a mask ultimately becomes a mask. So I mean,
so that sort of brutal honesty that isn't really genuine. That's just sort of like, this is like I'm being a reflection and I'm just telling it like it is, but that's not. It doesn't have me on it. It doesn't. It's not me.
dude, I wish I would have joined you on that bike. I've been riding my bike a shitload lately.
Yo, what are you doing tomorrow?
Fuck, I had the day off, but I really gotta do shit.
Okay.
What were you thinking? You don't work tomorrow? But what were you thinking?
A bike ride. I'm down for a little bike ride. But I just, because I wanted to go, this is my plan, I was going to go to jiu-jitsu, and then I was going to stay up there, go to the library, get my homework done, and then stay for the night class of jiu-jitsu, because I haven't done jiu-jitsu in so fucking long, dude.
Why not?
School, work, Gracie. Oh, that's your fucking book, bro.
Holy shit.
How crazy is that? What? You can take it back. Oh, and here's two. This is good. Love this book. I love this book. Thank you.
Oh, anytime, dude.
That shit was dank.
It's a really important book, dude. It's by the guy who wrote Herman Melville, you know, Moby Dick.
Okay.
And it's about the true nature
I've never
of
read
man.
Moby Dick.
Okay, it's about. I don't think I've read it all the way through either, honestly.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
I think Billy Budd's a much better book than Moby Dick, really.
Jesus. Okay.
Billy Budd was his final book. He never truly completed it, but they've sort of cobbled together what he had completed when he passed away.
Of Billy Budd, you're saying?
Billy Budd, yes.
Okay.
So that was his final book. But there are passages in there. It is about true man, natural man, the man as he is supposed to be, you know, and not just man, but the heroic man.
Okay.
The noble savage character.
Yeah.
The archetype.
The archetype. Yeah,
Let's,
the hero.
Let's roll up that if you can.
Okay, yeah.
The hero. But the natural hero, the hero against. What about
I can't. It's like
No,
broken.
that's cool.
I can do that. It
But
might come down
It's the hero against society, right?
though. Okay. Yeah, that's the prophet story, right?
That is Billy Budd. That is the noble savage. That is the.
Comes to tell society, yo, you guys are deviating.
But
from,
it's
like,
also
natural
the
order.
romantic male. The idea of the male is like a fantastical figure. It's like a higher transcendent being.
Okay.
When perfectly in his nature. You know what I'm saying? So it's like.
So the way he, arguably the way he should be, this is what happens.
Exactly. But
Okay.
not only the way he should be, but the perfect expression
Sure.
of that.
Okay.
You know? It's like, it
how
is
do
a
you-
romanticized idea,
But
of
what if-
course. But
how
that
do
is
you-
what it is.
How do you know that exists if you don't have something else to compare it to?
Sure, of course. Not everybody can be
depths
Billy Budd.
Okay, okay.
That's the idea. Is he is a fatalistic character,
Okay.
but his fate within the book is to come crashing against modernity, against society,
Modernity? What's that?
the ways in which industrialization have changed. That's
Okay.
usually what people refer to when they say modernity.
Modernity. Okay.
Modernity.
Like modernizing?
modernizing is becoming industrialized, right?
Yeah, sure.
So that's the lens
Modernity.
through which you look at modernity.
Okay.
It's the industrialized world, the fully industrialized world. There's modernization,
right?
industrialization. I would say we're modernized. We're, if anybody's modernized, we're modernized.
And see, we came to a crazy revolution where like it's like, damn, this is not that it's supposed to happen, but like that it's supposed to happen. Like the thing that I've been like saying, no, we gotta like, and maybe like even like I could just be, I don't know, dude, because like, you know, with like the Jewish state where it like it builds up, and somebody comes along and is like, you guys are like, to get here, you guys have deviated. Is that necessary? Because like we're saying that like
is it necessarily for a Messiah figure to emerge?
Not a Messiah, I think it's prophetic. I think Jesus was a prophet just the same as most other people.
You would, I mean, the traditional Christian belief, at least, would be
that he's a Messiah.
That
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. He would be the final.
Yes.
The final
okay.
step.
So another thing is like, I've said this before, and I didn't bring this one up. What happened if Jesus came back today? Like, Jesus would go to a psych ward. The only way Jesus comes back today is from the sky, and everybody's like,
well,
"Yep, it's a miracle."
Believing in Jesus in and of itself is an act of faith, right?
Sure. 100%.
So.
Okay.
So that's the idea. Yeah, he would be sent to a psych ward, but that's why Jesus came at a time in a place where he would become Jesus.
So what I'm saying is that, like, bro, like, are we not doing the shit? We're not doing the shit we should. We're not living the way we should be. If Jesus came back, we wouldn't be open to hearing this motherfucker. We'd throw him into a prison. We'd throw him into a box. That shows the deviation.
Let's put a pin in that.
Okay.
So that we can come back to it.
All right. Oh God. Okay. Cool. Oh, it was perfect, bro. Like the first time I ever did it. Yeah. Dude, the first time I did it, it was like one of those flash mobs, but like it just in life, you know, like where like I did it, nobody was expecting it. Like I pulled it out of my ass, and like everybody just went with it, and then it became a ritual. It was like hilarious. Bro. It was so funny. Oh fuck. You watched The Office, right? No.
Oh yeah, well I you know what? I watched it all the way through like a few years ago, and I haven't seen it again since then.
Dude, see, okay, so what that show to me is, it's not one person. It's the every, like, my being relates to every single one of those characters at different times of my being. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do you feel like they're sort of archetypes?
Oh shit, they are. That's what I've always thought.
I guess
that. I've never said that, but I've always said what I just said.
Comedy sort of comes down to that because
That's
it has
fair.
to be relatable, right?
That's true.
Can you pull that up?
Yeah.
So all comedy has to be sort of relatable to where, like, you're either cringing at something or it's funny for an absurd reason. So I feel like that all comes from, like, it's sort of like you can only, like, truly hate your, like, shadow self, like something that you see in yourself.
Okay.
It's like, and you have that repulsion from it because that's your shadow self. That's the thing that you hate about yourself. So when you see it projected out in the world, it's like this uncomfortableness that either, like, makes you laugh or you really lash out and you fucking, like, whenever you
100%.
see somebody who's a total fucking dweeb,
Yeah.
they're always being a dweeb in the way that you hate being a dweeb. So you sort of relate to that, and relating to it makes you fucking hate it, and it's just like, ooh, get away from me, dude. Stop being a fucking dweeb. Like,
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I do, like,
that's your shadow self. That's something Jung talked about.
100%. I agree with you. And, like, oh yeah. I mean, I don't disagree at all.
That's crazy.
I do it. We all do. And then so Jung was saying that we need to face that as our, like, confront it. Like, what we're doing, the reason that it's a shadow self is because, like, it's like saying when
It's something buried in you that you haven't confronted.
and thus, like, the way to it's like this. It's like my attention is the light source, and it's the shadow self for the reason that I haven't looked. Do you know what I'm saying? So I haven't paid attention to this. This is deep. All right. So my attention is my light source. My shadow self is where I don't look. I can embrace my shadow self by looking at it. By looking at the shadow.
Yeah, but that's why it's your shadow, is that you're not looking at it.
But like that's Nietzsche, not Nietzsche. Carl Jung's. He talked about the shadow, and then he talked about.
Let's get back inside.
Sorry,
Though.
yeah.
030 track.
Huh?
I hope that he's.
That would suck if we didn't pick up.
I hope he picks up.
That
God
would suck.
damn it! I really hope. I gotta switch this thing over, but it's like this company.
The only shitty part about it would be having to walk with a beard.
God damn it!
The only problem is the fucking here. I'll come right back. The only problem is the carrying the beer that distance.
Yeah. But it's still got
I'm
the
okay.
container on it. It's a lot better than carrying a fucking bike.
Here we go. Thanks, bro.
I wonder if he can hear us.
I don't know. I always say thanks though.
Where's my fucking phone go? Oh, you got a flight.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, that's right up here.
That's
Fuck.
The
shadow
what were we saying?
self.
The shadow self. Yeah. So like it's the shadow. So if you use that so Carl Jung presented the idea of the shadow, the concept of the shadow, but then he also, I mean, you don't think he talked about like how to embrace the shadow, how to incorporate the shadow into your whole of being, because it makes up the whole of being. You know,
I guess he did talk about that, didn't
of course.
he?
And so yeah, and so it's this. It's if my attention is my light source, it's the same concept as this, bro. Okay, you ready for this? Here we go. This is a Jordan Peterson thing that it's probably not even his, but like it's a children's story. Okay, you ready? There's a little boy, and he has a fucking baby dragon in his room, and he's like, whoa, what the fuck? This is a dragon. Yo, mom, there's a fucking dragon in here. She said, dragons aren't real, son. Stop talking shit like that, okay? Dragons aren't real. Okay, so she ignores it. She ignores the dragon, and let's show her for a second. She ignores the dragon. I put your window down.
Either way, I got the door.
Boom. All right. She ignores the dragon. It's not real. You don't talk. You don't look at a dragon that's not real, says the boy. So he just ignores the dragon. He goes about his life, and then the dragon gets a little bit bigger. It's growing, and he, so the story goes on like he's like fucking up the dinner table, and the mom's like comedically like vacuuming under the dragon's tail.
Where
like,
does this come from, though? Is this like
it's the shadow self? Here we go. Okay, so
well, but where's this whole idea of the dragon comedic under the table, vacuuming under the tail? Is that expressed somewhere? Where
this is a book. This is actually a children's book.
Oh, okay.
This is a real
So
book.
this is sort of like analysis on the part of Jordan Peterson.
Sure,
And
yeah.
incorporating it into the story at large.
It is looking at a story through a lens. It's looking at it through the Jungian
Some
lens.
people sort of criticize him for doing that, but
That's what everybody does anytime they think about anything. First of all,
you do have to like make the comparison, right? Because
how
you have to
many ways to
compare
play chess are
something
there?
to something else, you know? I mean,
Exactly,
If you're
I
not,
agree.
If you're not, unless you're just giving direct analysis, you always have to be comparing. So,
But
I
there
don't
is
know.
no direct
I think
analysis.
that
There is
there's-
no direct
it's
analysis.
It's useful to, you know.
I'm making an analogy to the fucking.
So there's no direct analysis. You don't think that you can talk about anything without talking about something else.
Not.
That is interesting. I don't know.
I think you're on a level that's. You're on a level that's. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. I'm just saying I don't think I'm on that level right now.
So what are you talking about then?
So it starts with the idea that like, all right, so the shadow self, in its nature, shadow. A shadow is an absence of light. So my conscious attention, I go about life.
It's a part of yourself that you're not paying attention to,
that you
but
don't
you're
look
doing it. You're doing it on purpose, though. That's the idea.
I think that could be argued. I think that could be. I think that could be argued.
That is the idea. That's the shadow self. That's like that thing that grosses you out when you see it. That thing that repulses you, that you want to attack.
But
when you see it outside of yourself, you hate it.
Sure. But it's because you don't
when
look
you
at it
see it
within
inside
yourself.
you can't even see it. You ignore it.
You ignore it. Exactly. So like this.
But you see it out there in the wild. You see that little fucked up part of you running around. You're like,
I agree.
Ooh, I don't like that.
Dude,
I
do that. I do that on a daily basis. I do that. Getting real personal. I do that with my mom. Like all the stupid shit that she does that I do. Like I'm like I don't even know. Like plenty of shit. You know, I just interact with her on. I live with her now, you know, so it's like I interact with her on a daily basis, and I see it, and like for the last like little while, I've been like saying like, yeah, I know that like saying this to her, I'm like, yeah, I'm like criticizing like where she's fucking up in life, but it's the same areas where I am too. So it's like, and then I say this, I'm like, I'm talking to myself, but like this goes for you too. If you weren't like this, I wouldn't be able to say this. So yeah, I know it's me too,
but it's you too.
It's you. I love you, so that's why I'm saying this. And then I say to myself, I'm like, I'm saying this to you too, Pablo. like I'm not shitting you. I swear to God. But anyway, so the conscious attention, it's like, yeah, so like we do this, like it's our being, right? So, and we just like we don't look at it. You said it. We ignore it, and when we see it, like it's outside, it's a different story.
I think it's just the idea that it's that matter in your brain that doesn't even have to be there, but it's like, you know, when you're sculpting a piece of marble, you're cutting off all the parts that you don't need, but there are a bunch of parts in there, right, that don't really represent that thing. You can scrape off everything on the surface. Hold on, I'm making a sort of an analogy here.
All right, I'm listening.
Like, you're trying to make a piece of marble represent a human being. So you're just taking all the pieces on the outside.
Sorry, I'll let you finish. I know, but I know where you're going. I think I know where you're going. Sorry, go.
But you can't sculpt the parts that are on the inside.
Okay.
So there's a whole world inside there that's really more important than the outside, that you can't even get to, you can't even touch, you can't purposefully sculpt. So as much as what you sculpted on the outside might interpret or might signify what the parts on the inside should be, you can't really touch it. You can't really...
I like my analogy better, where it's like my conscious attention, like where I'm analyzing is the light source, and like the thing that I'm not looking at for whatever reason, it's like what I need. So what Jung is saying is you need to expand your attention. You need to expand the source of light and not be so tunnel vision, because what it's integrating the shadow is the Jungian phrase for looking at the dark side of yourself.
Okay, that could just be like to
encompass,
seeing,
to transform
seeing
into
the negative.
Seeing it, but so this is a separate thing, but I think it's the same
like,
thing. It's like it's not. We view it. We make it negative because it's actually dark because it's the shadow.
I don't mean negative like bad. I don't mean negative like bad. I just mean the negative like the dark matter, the empty space. The negative being the. It's like, okay, so like it's like if I observe three. No, if I observe.
Spilled milk.
Sorry.
No, that's not you. That's me.
But I'm trying to say is if I observe 4 triangles organized in a certain shape,
okay,
I might see in the negative space a heart, right?
Okay.
From where the triangles aren't, but where they're sort of formed around.
Okay.
So you do have to sort of observe the negative. You have to see what's not there. You have to see what the things that are there sort of form around. That is the metaphysical. That is the empty space. That is the part of yourself that you don't want to see, right?
Yeah, but I thought metaphysical is like beyond physics, right? Like.
Right. So physics would be the little triangles on the outside, right?
Uh-huh.
And if you understand physics enough, I don't know.
I understand that's the shadow.
I think you're dealing with a few different ideas there, and
I think so too.
You're sort of wrapping them together. Let's go inside.
Mm-hmm. I've never ever posted a YouTube comment in my life, maybe like 5, but like I love reading them because people are funny as fuck.
People are funny and they're fucking vicious, dude. They'll because they're just trying to MMA each other. No, YouTube's funny like that. YouTube's funny like that.
It is, yeah. And it's just another expression of like our shadow selves, because people are internet warriors are saying.
Oh no, YouTube is totally the shadow self, because it's like you don't have to take account for any of the things you're saying. It's just like, no, this is my real opinion.